New data shows the left and the right are now self-segregating all across America. It's happening geographically in addition to digitally. We know that people are leaving Twitter, going over to Threads, the blue team going over to join Zuckerberg, the red team staying with Elon Musk. But it's not just digital war. It's now taking place on the ground. We have geographic resorting. The reds are going where the reds go and the blues are going where the blues go. AP tells us conservatives are going to red states and liberals are going to blue states. The country goes and grows more polarized. Bunch of examples here. This one comes out of Idaho. We've got Jennifer and Tim Cole pose in front of their front yard with their American flags. And here is what they tell us, that they moved to a Boise suburb last year. They say Cole did what the couple never dared to do at their previous house outside LA. The newly retired LA police officer flew a US flag, thin blue line banner representing law enforcement outside of his new house. He says, originally in California, we were scared to put it up, but now we're in the right place. A bunch of people were complimenting him. Now, Leah Dean is on the opposite end of the spectrum. She knows how the Coles feel. In Texas, Dean had been scared to fly her abortion rights banner outside her house. And around that time, the Coles were house hunting in Idaho. She found her partner and they got a place in Denver where their LGBTQ plus pride flag flies above the banner and their house proclaims, quote, abortion access is a community responsibility in Denver. So Idaho gets the red team, Denver gets this team. One thing we have really found is a place to feel comfortable about being ourselves. And yeah, Americans are segregating by their politics at a rapid clip, helping fuel the greatest divide between the states in modern history. And this is something we've talked a lot about here. We've talked about the literal division between the federal government and the state governments. We've seen different battles between the ATF and gun registration requirements. And we've seen states like Missouri say, we're not going to follow those rules, federal government. Thank you, though. And the federal government responding back. We're going to see a lot more of this. We see the states challenging the federal governments through attorney general filings. We saw a bunch of the states rise up and challenge the executive order from Joe Biden that just got decided in the Supreme Court. So the states are at some point going to be getting tired of the ineptitude of the federal government. And we see even different monetary systems now challenging a lot of what the federal government is doing. Texas is working on Bitcoin sovereignty, for example, and anti-seizure laws. And so as this continues on and people respond to what their governments are doing and leave when they're locked down in some of the more stringent states to go to the places where there is more freedom, this is going to continue to develop. And as the echo chambers online also continue to segregate, the red teams and the blue teams are going to divide even further. This woman, very proud of this lifestyle. I had an abortion. Rainbows on the front yard. Abortion access is a community responsibility. In Denver, one party controls the entire legislature in all but 2 states. In 28 states, the party in control has a supermajority. The split has sent states careening into the political left or right. In Idaho, abortion is illegal once we've got a heartbeat in a fetus early as 5 or 6 weeks. Colorado, different, prevents any restrictions on abortion. Denver's the place for that woman. We have this issue of federalism. Each state can chart its own course in the boundaries set by the Congress and the Constitution. And we want states to be laboratories of democracy so that states can experiment a little bit. But this worked well when we had a common shared set of ideals and values, when we all more or less agreed on what free speech meant and that the Constitution was important and that we are one country of Americans and that we shouldn't be separating people by race or gender or ethnicity or any other division that they have come up with in recent years. When we had a shared meaning of what a man and a woman was or what pronouns were, when we had shared understandings of free speech or the right to counsel or a shared concept of not prosecuting your political opponents, when all of that was the base layer, when we couldn't dip below that standard, that safety net almost, we could have laboratories of democracy. But that's not where we're at now. People like this woman think that you're literally enslaving women and stealing their civil liberties away, stealing their freedoms away by providing laws around abortion. And it is now a life or death battle. And we have other arguments on both sides where you can say they are actually coming after your livelihood. They wanted you fired from your job if you didn't comply with their mandates. You had arguments from people saying, if you don't get that jab, maybe you shouldn't even get health care. Maybe you should just suffer and die in the gutter because you're not following our prescribed narrative. So it's not even about, well, you know, maybe we should have a different policy about something on the margins. It is now life or death death, business survival or death, and the divisions keep moving. Some wonder whether America is being driven apart. Former Colorado state lawmakers asking that question. Here's another couple in Boise, Idaho, feeding their chickens. Colorado and Idaho represent two poles of state-level political homogenization. Others in Colorado are moving there. Transplants are moving to Idaho. People are dubbing this the big sort. Harvard professor, means take this for whatever, at least before the pandemic said only 15% of the homogeneity was due to people moving. A lot of this is driven by other sorting. They say when Americans move, it's not normally about politics, but something has changed in this country, become even more polarized. Businesses catering to conservatives are fleeing blue states. Markets to families literally moving from blue states to Florida. Blue line moving is literally helping people flee. In Texas, there's a Rainbow Underground Railroad that helps LGBTQ families flee the state and leave Texas under the Rainbow Underground Railroad. They say maybe the flip was switched during the pandemic. Yeah, maybe. Created a class of mobile workers, also created a new group of people who became awakened about the disgusting behavior of their government. Others have spearheaded campaigns. 3 children settled with this family in Idaho, and people are wanting to redeclare their freedom and regain their sovereignty. Others want to be governed harder. In Denver, one owner of a realty firm said politics has become the top issue. It's brought up in our initial conversations. 3 years ago, we didn't have those conversations ever. So all of those purple-haired abortionists will go over to Colorado and they can hang out with themselves, I guess. One of the politically motivated migrants has also moved for protection of abortion rights. And when they get there, they're going to codify them harder. And when the Reds go to other states, they'll codify their laws. And so the great division carries on. Denver has found other people who fled red states. They discovered their neighbors fled Florida as the great sort continues. Now, here was some actual numbers that I found very interesting. You can see where people are moving to and from. This came out from a blog, but they assembled this on 2022 and 2021 data. And they tell us about net migration by state. Where are people leaving and where are people going? And there was this beautiful table here. You can see most people are fleeing the big blue states. California has lost in 2022 343,000 people. New York almost 300,000. Illinois, big blue, big blue, big blue, 141,000. New Jersey, same thing. You get to Massachusetts and those top 5 all blue states. We get to Louisiana, Maryland, and then we start evening out. Now the states, the top 5 biggest gainers are going to be Florida, basically picking up the opposite. Texas getting a bunch of people red. North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee. A lot of people moving where they'll have a little bit more space and a lot more freedom. Georgia's next, Arizona's in the top 7. Now, there's some concern about this because all of these people, all of these blue exits are then going to these blue states, and allegedly, they keep telling us, Arizona is turning blue. And with other changes in policy in these states about how elections are conducted and so on, we'll see if these states continue to stay red. But the great sort is continuing. And when you juxtapose that with what's happening online, with these divisions between the big tech companies continuing to evolve and grow deeper, what does this bode for America? Do we have a peaceful separation? Do we have a partition? Do we have a civil war? I sure hope not. But the division continues on. We're asking ourselves if there are any leaders out there who can emerge with a unified vision and unite the country, and we'll continue to follow.